Bonjour everyone and welcome back to Farmers Corners FC, the French football podcast with the accent. We talk about everything Ligue 1 and European competition for French club. Very good to be back on that podcast again this week. This week we're going to cover Matchday 8 for Ligue 1. Only 9 games played this weekend. One game was delayed or postponed rather because of coronavirus cases. 25 goals still and only 3 red cards this time. Our European teams had somewhat different fates this week, and we're going to discuss that in our Farmers Focus as usual when there's going to be European games midweek. Matchday 8, so Paris win again and Rennes losing for the first time, and it ended up with a good duel between Lyon and Monaco. As usual, we're going to discuss every game during that podcast, but first, music. Okay, the Farmers focused, so there's Champions League games and Europa League games this week, so as usual that's what we're going to focus on when we're going to have these games. Let's quickly talk about what the clubs have done last week and who they're going to face this week. We're going to start with Paris Saint-Germain, who was hosting their strongest opponent last week in the group, Manchester United, and they lost 2-1 at the Parc des Princes. It was quite the even matchup, I guess, but Rashford, like in the run of 16 in 2019, scored a late winner that really cost Paris Saint-Germain the game, but also quite a bit of confidence, and there's a lot of talk around, is Thomas Tuchel the right coach to bring Paris Saint-Germain to where they're supposed to be, etc., etc. Every time they lose, there's that sort of mini crisis coming in with Paris Saint-Germain. This week they are going to travel to Istanbul to face Başakşehir, who's supposedly the weakest team in their group. The Turkish club count in its rank some players that are familiar with PSG, namely the former Lyon right back Raphael, the former Bordeaux striker Crivelli, and the experienced Senegalese goal scorer Ben Dembaba. They also have the Liverpool centre back Skrtel playing for them. Başakşehir, they lost to Leipzig 2-0 last week, but they bounced back nicely on the weekend with a 5-1 nul versus Antalyaspor. PSG should win this game without too much problem, I think. That's an Istanbul team who's been struggling this season, losing 4 of their 7 official fixtures so far. Really, anything else than a win could result in, I guess, that same sort of mini crisis for Paris Saint-Germain. Some serious question about Tuchel's ability to actually lead this squad. The game will be on Wednesday night, Thursday morning, where I am. The next team we'll talk about is Rennes, who played their first ever Champions League game against Krasnodar this week, in a game that ended up in a 1-1 draw at Roazhon Park. Stéphane's men, they can have some regret, I think, because it looked like the 3 points could have been theirs for the taking. On Wednesday, they'll travel to Sevilla for their second game. The Andalusian club drew in Chelsea 0-0, a match that they could have won if it wasn't for the former Rennes skipper Mendy, who had some great save for Chelsea. They also have lost their last 2 Liga fixtures, Sevilla, so maybe it's the right moment for Rennes to travel to Sevilla to play against them. This weekend they won at home against Eibar, but they are a team with loads of European experience. Of course, they are the Europa League title holders. Last season they only lost 1 European game, and that was the game that didn't count at the end of the group stage. Lopetegui's men, they play a somewhat defensive football with the flexibility to alternate pressing high and sitting low in their 4-3-3, and I think despite their poor form, they really seem to be a tough matchup for Stade Rennais. Of course, within the ranks of Sevilla, we find as well some former Ligue talent, Lucas Ocampos, Jules Koundé, who probably won't be playing this week because he contracted COVID, and then Diego Carlos and Karim Rekik also are in that Sevilla team. It's going to be, I think, very hard for Rennes to get a result there. But I guess we've seen a lot of young talent in the Rennes team. So maybe if they go over motivated and if they're able to score early, then they can, I guess, slow down and drop low and let Sevilla come to them. But I have, unfortunately for Rennes, I have quite. I guess I have some stock for Sevilla, and I think Sevilla can really go far in the competition this season. It's going to be a very interesting game. Same thing Wednesday night or Thursday morning, depending on where you live. The third team in Champions League, of course, is Olympique de Marseille. Marseille, who traveled to Greece to play former Marseille player Mathieu Valbuena's team Olympiacos, and they came back from Greece without anything. Their 10th loss in a row in Champions League for Marseille, which is a French record, and obviously it's still going. And they are 2 losses away from Anderlecht, who lost 12 games in a row, which is the all-time record from any team in Champions League. Not a record that Marseille will be proud to have. They were basically uninspired offensively, and they conceded in the dying minutes of the game. They'll cross the channel this week and head to the Etihad. Oh no, sorry, they'll play home this week, they'll be hosting Manchester City. They're not going to the Etihad yet, they're going to the very last game. So they're hosting Manchester City in an empty velodrome this weekend, Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. The Citizens came back from a goal down to beat Porto last week at the Etihad. They're probably playing their worst football since Pep took over, really. They made a few mistakes against Porto. They could have conceded more goals. And in Premier League, they also have one of their worst starts since Guardiola took over. They only have 8 points in 5 games, with an uncharacteristic 13th place for Manchester City. This weekend they struggled to get a point in West Ham. They rely a lot on their individual talent right now, and they haven't really found their groove yet this season. They're not really pressing, they're not really playing the game at a high rhythm. They really look like a bit of a shadow of themselves, which is, hopefully the best time for Marseille to play them, especially at home. André Villas-Boas, though, will most likely park the bus even if they play home, and pray that they can score on set pieces, because Marseille is pretty good on set pieces these days. A point would really be a small miracle for Mandanda and company. Obviously, of course, in Manchester City we find a few of our former Ligue 1 players as well. Mendy, who used to play in Marseille, is their left back, and Bernardo Silva and Riyad Mahrez are also found in the Citizens shirts. The game of the week in Champions League will not be any Ligue 1 team, but we'll be seeing one of our favorite duels of the last 15 years, I guess, Messi against Ronaldo, with Juventus hosting Barca. That's the first time those two players will face each other since the Portuguese star left Real Madrid. So it's a game that, even though it's not Ligue 1, even though it's definitely not farmers football, we'll be looking forward to watch. In Europa League, Nice and Lille, who met on the weekend, had opposite results this week. Pat Vieira's men, Nice, were trashed by Leverkusen 6-2. It was a rare game off, I guess, for goalkeeper Walter Benitez. This week they host Hapoel Beersheva at the Allianz Riviera. The Israeli team has qualified for the European football consistently for the past 6-7 years, even though their squad is really little known. They managed to secure a late win versus Slavia Prague at home last week, with Akoladze scoring twice in the dying minutes. Nice will fancy a result, obviously, at Allianz Arena against a team that looks weaker on paper, and they need points if they want to stay in touch with the top of their group, if they hope to actually go through. The other team involved, Lille, and Christophe Galtier, were actually the only French team to win in European scene last week, with a convincing performance in Czech Republic against Sparta Prague 4-1. This week they're going to host Celtic Glasgow, who are on a tough run in the last 2 weeks. They lost the Old Firm, the Glasgow Derby against Rangers, and then they lost against Milan AC 3-1 last week. This weekend they conceded a draw at the last minute in Aberdeen 3-3. So I think Lille definitely have a chance to send a message. They are, in my opinion, even better than AC Milan, and so winning this week against Celtic will give them the confidence to try and get a result in San Siro for the next round. Celtic Glasgow, who has a few Frenchies in their ranks, two that play in Ligue 1, Hudson Edouard and Christopher Julien, and the promising young midfielder Olivier Ncham as well. My local also is in that team in Celtic. Tom Rogic, born in Canberra, the Australian international, plays with the Celtic since 2013. He was 21 at the time where he joined the Glasgow team, and this weekend he got 2 assists, so he's hopefully back at his best, our little Canberra friend. That's about it for the European teams of the weekend. We're going to go straight to Ligue 1. So Ligue 1 this weekend, only 9 games were played, with Lens Nantes, like I said, postponed because of the amount of COVID cases in the Lens squad. Apparently a dozen confirmed. We still seen 25 goals and 3 red cards, unfortunately, in those 9 games. We're going to start with the first game on Friday night / Saturday morning. Rennes, who was hosting Angers. Rennes that lost at home against Angers 2-1. The goal scorer were Hunu for Rennes 18th minute, and Bouffal at the 27th, and Fulgini at the 57th for Angers. Rennes, who finished the game with 64% possession, 11 shots but only 1 on target, which was the goal by Hunu, and Angers 10 shots, 4 on target. We've seen Rennes' first defeat this season in Ligue 1. They had several changes in their starting lineup, obviously to rest some of their players, and as a result there was 4 teenagers starting the game, and 4 talented ones. Kamavinga, 17 years old, Truffert, the left back, 18 years old, Jeremy Doku, the new recruit, 18, and Gboho, the left winger, 19. Such young talent in that team, year in year out. It's really good to see that in Ligue 1. They did face an ambitious Angers team though this weekend, a team that defended well but also was very dangerous in counter-attack. Coach Moulin would be very happy with his new recruits, Bouffal and Cabot. They were always able to create that that imbalance in the Rennes defense, which is I guess a bit uncharacteristic of Rennes as well. Rennes' goal came by Hunu, as I was saying. That's his 29th goal in Ligue 1, and 28th of them came from within the box, so he's really that Pippo Inzaghi style of striker. This one came after a rare mistake from Bernardoni, who couldn't really keep the ball in his hand. But what's more, I guess, concerning for Rennes, if that was their only shot on target, and that was the 20th minute. Angers answered brilliantly with Bouffal, and then Fulgini gave them the lead at the hour mark. They could have scored a couple of more goals if it wasn't for Gomis, the Rennes goalkeeper. They had a couple of opportunities. Bahoken also deserved quite some praise for his game. They did drop lower at the end of the game. Obviously, Angers winning 3-0, they decided to stop playing as hard, but they were never really put in danger. It's important. It's interesting, to see them jumping back to 6th at the ladder. It's good to see Angers up there with the team that Stéphane Moulin has. It's a real credit to his coaching abilities to be able to put his team all the way up there. Rennes obviously this week will be playing in Seville in European Cup and in Champions League, I should say, and then we'll host Brest for one of those Brittany derby at the end of the week. Angers will be hosting Nice. Next game was Lorient against OM. OM who bounced back nicely from that midweek loss by winning 1-0 in Lorient. OM who finished with 65% of possession, 15 shots, 3 on target. Lorient had 12 shots and 3 on target. At halftime, Marseille had 75 ball possession, so it was a very interesting first half for Marseille. Rongier, for his 150th Ligue appearance, he's only 25, it's pretty good, was lined up in a diamond midfield next to Camara, Gay and Cuisance. Just a reminder, Payet was still suspended, so that's why he didn't play this weekend. So AVB decided to play Marseille with his 4-4-2 diamond. That helped in getting the 3 points against Bordeaux the week before. Lorient, had a pretty offensive team to start as well, with Boisgard, Wissa, Mofi and Hamel playing up front. But the first half was dominated by Marseille. Like I said, 75% ball possession. They were only dangerous on set pieces though, and what that meant is one of the players that probably had the best first half was on the Lorient side. Former OM player Abergel in the midfield, who was very good actually in the central midfield and always quick to come out of position, really prevented Cuisance from being as good in the build-up as he was last week against Bordeaux. The only game of the match came off a set piece again for OM. Tauvin's free kick found Balerdi's header. A bit of a weird goal. It seems like the ball was going straight into Nardi's, the goalkeeper from Lorient, Nardi's gloves, but he sort of decided not to grab the ball thinking it was going to come out for a goal kick, but he had Balerdi just behind him who just had to head it in a narrow angle, but just had to head it in and did. OM really managed the rest of that game well, alternating dropping low and pressing high, and Lorient was not really able to bring the danger to Mandanda. They did hit the post once, but it looked like Mandanda had it under control. I guess the concern for Marseille is again their attack. Benedetto really uninspired. It'll be interesting to see if he plays against Manchester City. I think he's at 8 or 9 games without scoring now. I'm not sure if Villas-Boas would play him in Manchester City because he's capable of doing what he did against Paris, which is playing without a striker and parking the bus. Marseille obviously will play City in the week and then host Lens on Friday night, Saturday morning, while Lorient will travel to Dijon at the end of the week. With this game, Lorient against Marseille, the victory of Marseille brought them up to the 4th position, which is pretty good despite the quality of football they've shown since the beginning of the season. Lorient, unfortunately, is at the 17th position. Next up is Paris Saint-Germain against Dijon. Paris Saint-Germain, who won, I guess, easily on paper, 4-0, 2 goals by Moise Kean, 3rd and 23rd minute, and 2 goals by Kylian Mbappé at the 82nd and 88th minute. 55% possession for Paris Saint-Germain, 20 shots, 9 on target, and Dijon with 16 shots and only 3 on target. Paris, with that win, is back on the top of Ligue 1. Thanks to that nice success in Parc des Princes, 2 braces, like I was saying, for Kean and Mbappé. Moise Kean, who scores in one night as many goals as he did in 29 appearances in Everton last season. The game started with a little bit of drama because of Thomas Tuchel's starting lineup. Thomas Tuchel decided to put Danilo as a centre-back and Marquinhos as a defensive midfielder. Obviously, Danilo in Porto was mostly a defensive midfielder, and Marquinhos, everyone thought that with Thiago Silva gone, that Marquinhos was going to find himself in central defense. But what we learned before, after the game, with all that drama of that starting lineup, is that actually Danilo was recruited because he can be defensive mid and also centre back, and Tuchel really wanted a centre back, and Leonardo, the sporting director, really wanted a centre mid. So Leonardo sort of gave in a little bit by finding a defensive midfielder who could also play centre back, which is Danilo. Tuchel after the game said that there was no drama about his starting lineup, and the only reason why Danilo was dropped down and Marquinhos was in the midfield, it's because Marquinhos will always be in the midfield as long as he plays with Paris. Tuchel said that Marquinhos was basically the soul of Paris Saint-Germain and was the player who's able to make sure that everyone does the job, and he called him the heart and soul of Paris Saint-Germain, and every time he'll be playing, he wants the heart and soul of his team to be at the heart of the team, which is in the midfield. Interesting take from Tuchel. I guess maybe we didn't really see it coming because Marquinhos hasn't been the best in midfield against the biggest team. So it's interesting to see him there. I guess it's also Marquinhos is also Tuchel's main support in the locker room. So with being his captain, maybe Marquinhos likes to play midfield more than he likes to play centre back, and Tuchel, to make him happy, gives it to him. But yeah, it was definitely interesting to see Danilo in centre back next to Diallo because Kimpembe was on the bench this weekend. Anyway, back to the pitch. PSG played alright, and obviously scoring at the 3rd minute by Moise Kean certainly helped. Neymar also hit the posts quite early, so the score could have been worth for Dijon, who still play good football. They didn't come to Paris not showing anything, but in the end they lose 4-0 and they still haven't won a game this season. They showed some good stuff, especially with Ebimbe, who's actually on loan from Paris, Chouillard and Balde up front, but at the end of the game, as soon as Mbappé comes in for the last 15 minutes, he scores twice. He now has 6 goals in 5 games, and is on the top of the goal scoring ladder for PSG. This week PSG is playing in Turkey, which is going to be interesting when I don't know if anybody listening follows what's going on in geopolitics, but the two leaders of France and Turkey are taking shots at each other right now on social media. So it's interesting to see Paris going to play in Istanbul this week. Hopefully everything is going to be okay. And next weekend, Paris Saint-Germain will travel to Nantes while Dijon hosts Lorient for a game between two teams that have been struggling recently, and Dijon will hopefully get their first win this weekend. Next game up is Montpellier hosting Reims, and what a result, 4-0 for Reims. Montpellier finished with 9 players, 2 red cards in the first half as well. Reims with 67% possession, 24 shots, 9 on target. Montpellier only 5 shots, only 1 on target. The goal scorers, Dia with the hat-trick, 2 penalty at the 9th and the 56th minute, and a goal at the 13th, and Mbuku, who scored at the 31st minute for Reims. The game was clearly almost over in 15 minutes. A penalty and quite a severe red card given to Hilton at the 9th minute. Hilton, who was playing his 489th Ligue game this weekend, who got a red card and a penalty given against him for, sort of grabbing a shoulder. The penalty is there. I think the red card was definitely a little bit severe. And then Diaz scored another goal a couple of minutes later, which means that Reims was playing against 10 men with 2 goals up. Really hard for Montpellier. Savanier was suspended, and Savanier, as we know, is their best player right now. So without Savanier, with only 10 men, and then they conceded again with Mbuku, who I guess took advantage of Montpellier defense, so was a little bit passive. Beautiful goal by Mbuku if you have a chance to have a look at it. Nice little bicycle kick to put it in. And then a few minutes later, a second red card for Montpellier. This one definitely well deserved, with Le Tallec losing the plot a little bit and kicking Sierras in the groin as he's falling down. So now Rennes was down to 9 men with a bit more than a half to play. Rennes got another penalty in the second half for Dia, who got a hat-trick and his 6th goal of the season, so he's leveling with Mbappé and Mian. Interestingly enough, that was the first time that a Reims player would get a hat-trick in Ligue 1 since 1978. 42 years since a Reims player had a hat-trick in Ligue 1. My cool stat of the weekend, obviously courtesy of Opta as usual. Montpellier will be a little bit worried, I think, after 2 home losses and 4 games without a win. They'll also go to St-Etienne this weekend without Hilton and without Le Tallec. it's going to be hard to bounce back like this. Reims, who finally got the first win of the current exercise in Ligue 1, will be hosting Strasbourg this weekend and hope to keep on the momentum. Stéphane Guillon will definitely be happy to have gotten the monkey off his back and get his first win in Ligue 1 this season. Next game up is Metz against Saint-Etienne, and Saint-Etienne, we were just talking about them. Saint-Etienne not in great form right now, lost 2-0 in Metz. Metz 6 shot, 3 on target. Saint-Etienne 10 shot, not 1 on target. Pretty sad for Saint-Etienne, who had the majority of the possession, 57% ball possession for Saint-Etienne this weekend, but unfortunately not able to convert that into goal scoring opportunities. The goal scorers for Metz: Boulaya, beautiful free kick at the 5th minute, and then Sissoko, the Saint-Etienne defender, with an own goal at the 78th minute. Metz gets a 3rd consecutive win at home at Saint-Symphorien this weekend thanks to Boulaya's early free kick. The game was a game between the two most experienced Ligue 1 coaches coaching right now. Puel with 605 Ligue 1 games and Antonetti with 548 Ligue 1 games. The former played a young starting lineup with 4 teenagers in his back four: Moefek, Retsos, So, and poor Sissoko scored that own goal, all between 18 and 19 years old. Saint-Etienne lost 4 in a row now after a good start of the season when they had won 3 in a row, and they've not won since Fofana has left to Leicester, which is a little bit scary for them. They desperately need a striker. They almost had Mbanyang, but the transfer was cancelled last minute. They definitely need another striker. For Metz, though, it's a great result. It's a 5th match without losing, and they pass RSSE on the ladder. Antonetti has a young squad, but they play well, and the standout was definitely Santon, their right back, who was linked with some transfers, potentially to Marseille, potentially to Rennes over the last transfer window, and he's showing that he's definitely a promising young right back. Next week, Saint-Etienne will be hosting Montpellier, like we were saying, and Metz will be traveling to Nimes. Speaking about Nimes was traveling to Bordeaux this weekend, and Nimes lost in Bordeaux 2-0. Bordeaux with 60% possession, 20 shots, 6 on target, while Nimes had 8 shots and only 4 on target. The goal scorer, Briand, at the 80th minute on penalty, and Houdin at the 82nd minute. Each team basically had their half at Matmut Atlantic. Nimes dominated the first half, but were not able to translate that domination. And I think Jean-Louis Gasset probably had a few words for his Bordeaux team at halftime, because Bordeaux came back much stronger. René, the goalkeeper from Nimes, had to make a few important saves to make sure that his team was going to stay in the game, but unfortunately, with 10 minutes left to play, Ben Arfa started dribbling in the Nimes defense, and I gotta say that Miguel conceded a pretty dumb penalty. I know there was some talks that maybe there was not penalty because Ben Arfa had lost the ball at that point, but the way Miguel defends and completely goes out of his way to push Ben Arfa, it's just not smart at all for a professional player. Anyway, penalty for Bordeaux, and Briand scored it, and it was his 100th Ligue 1 goal. Nice for Jimmy Briand, 35 years old, scoring his 100th goal. 2 minutes later, Bordeaux, playing in counter-attack, was able to score another one by Houdin this time. Nimes didn't show a lot offensively, like I said, not 4 shots on target, but they really need to bounce back from those 2 straight losses, and they really need to find their groove again. I mean, maybe their groove is Andres Cubas, and Cubas wasn't playing this weekend, but they really need to find a way to go back to what we've seen a little bit the first game of the season, and then even against Paris Saint-Germain, where they were a little bit in better form than in Bordeaux this weekend. Next week, Nimes will be hosting Metz in hopes that they can get a result, and Bordeaux will travel to Monaco. Next game up is Brest against Strasbourg, and a nice away win for Strasbourg, 3-0, despite Brest having the best possession, 63%, 14 shots, 4 on target. Strasbourg had only 7 shots, but 5 on target. The goal scorer for Strasbourg, Diallo at the 27th minute, Lala on penalty at the 40th, and Ajorque at the 67th minute. Strasbourg had lost 6 of their 7 games this season. They finally get a second win. I think that the two striker, Ajorque and Diallo, work really well up front together, really complementary. Diallo actually assisted Ajorque for the third goal, and Diallo also scored in his second game with Strasbourg in a row. 2 goals in 2 games, which is the first for Strasbourg since a Michael Pagis in 2004. If you followed Ligue 1 then, it can only be good omen for Strasbourg if a player is as good as Pagis was for them. The VAR definitely played its part in the game. At the 40th minute, after a penalty was given to Brest, the VAR showed that there was a handball in the other box just before that penalty was given, so it became a Strasbourg penalty that Lala scored. Despite Fèvre and Le Doiron trying their best, Brest could not really come back into it. Strasbourg can thank their second goalkeeper in the absence of Matsels, Benguro Camara, who was very, very inspired this weekend. And again, Ajorque finally, I guess, rewarded for all his efforts in the beginning of the season. He deserved that goal that he was able to get this weekend. Next week, Strasbourg will be traveling to Reims, while Brest will go to Rennes for a game that's going to be hard for them to get a result from. Next on was our duel of the European team. Nice and Lille, 1-1 draw, 53% possession for Nice, 8 shots, 3 on targets, 12 shots for Lille, 4 on target. The goal scorer Dolberg at the 50th minute and Yilmaz at the 58th minute, 2 of our best striker showing off their skills this weekend. A logic draw really between the two Europa League teams representing France. They both seem a little bit out of the juice, although they also both proved that they had enough depth to keep players on the bench for this game. Nice were maybe more dangerous, and Mike Maignan had to be on his A game, but Lille also responded well in counter-attack. And if Dolberg scores a beautiful goal at the 50th minute at the end of a nice 1-2-3 passes between Schneiderlin, Ronny Lopez, Claude Maurice and Dolberg. That shows, qualities in the build-up for Nice, but also the finishing skills of Dolberg. A beautiful little pitched ball just over Mike Maignan. Yilmaz's answer a few minutes later was also another proof that the 35-year-old Turkish striker is one of the best strikers we have in Ligue 1 this season. He scored 4 goals in the last 4 games. The last player who did that for Lille was Leao at the end of 2018, and 6 months later he signed for Milan AC. So it's not going to happen for Yilmaz, obviously. There's an age difference. But it's a pretty good performance for the Turkish striker. The Turkish playing well for Lille this week, with Yazici getting a hat-trick during the week in Prague, and Yilmaz scoring the equalizer this week. Lille can feel lucky as well that they didn't lose that one, because at the very end of the game, Thuram's header was just wide of Lille's goals. I don't know how he missed that one. Nice could have gotten the 3 points on that. But the LOSC, at the end of the day, is still undefeated. The only team who wasn't lost this year in Ligue 1. They did lose the first place to PSG though this weekend due to a better goal difference for Paris Saint-Germain. The two teams, like I said, are in Europa League, so Lille will be hosting Celtic Glasgow and Nice will be hosting Hapoel Beersheva this week. And then at the end of the week, Nice is traveling to Angers, while Lille, for the game of the weekend, will be hosting Lyon. And since we are talking about Lyon, this brings us to our very last game of the weekend. Lyon versus Monaco. Lyon won 4-1 against Monaco, and the statistics are a little bit crazy. Monaco finished the game with 65% of ball possession, 18 shots, 5 on target. Lyon with 15 shots and 6 on target. The goal scorer, Memphis Depay, at the 12th minute, Toko Ekambi at the 34th and the 44th, and our penalty at the 41st, while Ben Yedder scored for Monaco at the 48th minute. The stats are halftime are even better than the stats at the end of the game. At halftime, Lyon had 27% of possession, Monaco at 73% possession, and Lyon had 4 shots on target for 4 goals. It was just the perfect game for Rudy Garcia. I don't know what Kovac, the coach from Monaco, was thinking when he decided to play with a high defense and to try and keep possession, because it's Lyon's bread and butter. If you're going to be a team who dominates the game and who is sort of forcing Lyon to play defensively and let them play in counter-attack, that's all they want. They got speed up front. They got players like Toko Ekambi and Kadewere that are better when they can run and challenge, and that was definitely what was happening. Each counter-attack was a goal in the first half, and the defense of Monaco just wasn't challenging Kadewere or Memphis or Toko Ekambi technically. Obviously, Monaco had a few opportunities. They did play well in the first half despite the score, but Lopez, who was playing his 250th Ligue game, Anthony Lopez, the goalkeeper, was on his A game this Sunday night and prevented Monaco from scoring earlier than that penalty early in the second half. Kovac did make 3 changes at halftime to try and boost his team, and Ben Yedder, like I said, scored at the 40th minute, but after that Monaco just seemed a little bit tired, a little bit out of juice. Just for the story, the referee, who was actually good until then and who didn't give in to give red cards on like actions that were a little bit I guess controversial, did give a very severe red card at the very end of the game to Melvin Barr, the Lyon left back. Definitely wasn't a red card, and the poor kid just had entered the pitch. That's the 30th red card of the season in Ligue 1. So far, it's a pretty terrible record to have. At the end of the game, the stat was that Lyon, scoring 4 goals with under 35% possession, was a first since Opta started recording stats in 2006. So quite a performance for Lyon. Like I said, it's definitely Garcia's favorite game when the other team is going to do all the work, all the football, and he can just sit back, and play in counter-attack. Niko Kovac did recognize his mistake after the game. In the press conference, did say that he didn't put the right team on and he didn't have the right plan on to play Lyon, and he should have been more prepared. But at the end of the day, Monaco's defense was so appalling. They were not coming back fast enough. The penalty given by CDB is just something that should never happen at a professional level. Just not great from Monaco. Next week, Monaco will be hosting Bordeaux, and Lyon will travel to Lille. Another game that seemed made for Lyon. A journey to Lille when we know how well the Galtier men are playing this season. I think it's the kind of game that Lyon can win just by playing the exact same way that they've played at home against Monaco this weekend. And that's it. That's about it for Ligue 1 this week. A quick recap of the scores. So Rennes lost at home 2-1 against Angers. Lorient lost at home 1-0 against Marseille. Paris Saint-Germain won 4-0 against Dijon. Montpellier lost 4-0 against Rennes. Metz won 2-0 against St-Etienne. Bordeaux won 2-0 against Nimes. Brest lost 3-0 against Strasbourg. Nice and Lille for the only draw of the weekend, 1-1, and then Lyon won 4-1 against Monaco. As I said, Lens versus Nantes was postponed because of coronavirus cases. What does that mean on the ladder? Paris Saint-Germain with 18 points and a goal difference of plus 17 is first on the table, followed by Lille with 18 points as well, but a goal difference of only 11. And then Rennes and Marseille have 15 points, followed by Nice 14 points, Lyon, Lens and Angers with 13 points. Lens, obviously, who still has a game in hand. At the very, very bottom of the ladder, Strasbourg with 6 points, Reims with 5 points, and Dijon with 2 points and still no wins are closing the ladder. Thank you very much for for being here again for the Farmers Corners FC French football with the accent. This podcast was a little bit shorter than usual, I guess. I guess I'm getting into a rhythm, and I didn't have to do a big Farmers focus with the European games coming. Maybe next week will be a little bit more to talk about with the results, if the French teams are getting better results than they got last week. Thank you very much for following us, for being here. I'll probably get a guest on again in a couple of weeks. I'm getting either a supporter from Monaco or from Nice to discuss their teams and how they've been earlier in the season. Feel free to drop me a line on Facebook, on Twitter, any feedback, any comments that we have. More than happy to hear them. But in the meantime, have a great week. Have fun supporting French teams in Champions League and in Europa League. Have fun if you're going to watch Juventus and Barcelona. Hopefully it's going to be a good game. And I'll talk to you again next week. Au revoir.